Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Galactic Core podcast. My name is Andy, the host, as you probably should know by now, to be fair, if you tune into the show. I am here for the next 9 days straight as we are going to be getting into reactions and reviews of Marvel's What If Season 3. But first of all, of course, if you aren't following or you don't know where to find the Galactic Core podcast, you can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, other podcast places, obviously YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch. I do have a Facebook as well. So make sure you're jumping over, you're giving us a like, you're giving us a follow, because as I said, I'm here for the next 9 days straight, giving my reactions to each episode of Marvel's What If. We are here to be chatting about Marvel's Season 3 of What If. So I'm actually quite a big fan of the What If show. I obviously love the scenario of it, that you can make anything. Start of season 3, the final season that we're getting of this show. It looks like it could be a really good season. Season 1 to me was really, really good. I did really enjoy it. Season 2, maybe not so much. It does obviously have potential, but definitely season 1 so far has been the better out of the two of them. But season 3, it looks like we've got some really, really good episodes lined up. So today we've had episode 1, What If the Hulk Fought the Mech Avengers. I'm just going to run through the other ones quickly and just sort of see which ones I'm really looking forward to. So tomorrow we got What If Agatha Went to Hollywood. Probably not going to be that fussed about that one, to be honest. It'll be interesting to see how it goes down, especially since we've got, obviously, a lot of the voice actors do return. So we've got, obviously, Catherine Hahn as Agatha. Kingo from Eternals comes back. Howard Stark. And Edwin Jarvis return as well. So that's going to be interesting. Day after that, we've got What If the Red Guardian Stopped the Winter Soldier? So obviously David Harbour and Sebastian Stan returning as the Red Guardian and the Winter Soldier. Bill Foster is coming as well, so that's going to be interesting. We haven't really seen him since Ant-Man 2, so that's going to be an interesting one, I think. We have seen a couple of clips as well of that. So episode 4, very random one. What if Howard the Duck got hitched? So Darcy is returning. Also, obviously, Howard the Duck, Nick Fury, Loki, and Yondu are all returning. So actually, it's quite a good little cast for that particular episode. So it's going to be a random episode, but I'm actually quite looking forward to the cast list of that one. After that, episode 5, we got What If the Emergence Destroyed the Earth? So this is obviously the Eternals and the Celestials. But we've got Ironheart, and we've got Mysterio, Sharon Carter, Valkyrie, and Arishem. Some of the, obviously, the big characters coming in for that episode. So that's, I think, is going to actually be a really, really interesting episode. Super exciting to get that one. Episode 6, we've got What If 1872. So obviously, I think from the clips we've seen from the trailers, that's going to be like a cowboy Western style episode. We've got Shang-Chi, Kate Bishop, John Walker as the sort of main characters popping up in that one. That's going to be an interesting one. I'm not much of a cowboy sort of like a Wild West fan myself, but we're going to have to wait and see how that one drops down. So then the last 2 episodes look really interesting. So episode 7, What If the Watcher Disappeared? So in this one, we have Hayley Atwell returning as Captain Carter. We got Kahori from that original character from season 2's returning. We've got Storm as the goddess of thunder. That's obviously going to be really interesting. So we're going to have to really see what does happen in that one. But I think that is going to be a really, really interesting episode. And then season 8. So the finale to all of this is What If, What If? So it says on this one that we're getting Captain Carter, Jason Isaacs as the Eminence. We've got Kahori, Storm, the Goddess of Thunder, as well as a few others that appear in the episode before. So it looks like it kind of ties in together. So that I am actually really excited for as well. So it looks like it's almost like a 2-parter finale to this series and see what happens. So, yep, I am super excited to jump into all these episodes. So I'm just going to be doing a quick sort of 5-10 minute every day video just to react to it and just to give some thoughts on it. So, but today, episode 1, What If Hulk Fought the Mech Avengers? So this was an interesting one. It was clearly giving off some definite sort of Power Rangers, Voltron, Pacific Rim, Godzilla vibes, absolutely for sure. So, I mean, in an attempt to rid himself of the Hulk once and for all, Bruce Banner accidentally bombards himself with so much gamma radiation, it births a monstrous creature known as the Apex. Basically, he's like a ramping kaiju. So, like the original Avengers get get their obviously mech suits made for them, and they sort of fall, and we're left with this crew of Sam Wilson, Monica Rambeau, Bucky Barnes, Moon Knight, Red Guardian, Shang-Chi, Nakia, and Melina Vostokov. So this is the team that's left after the original Avengers fell, and obviously in this episode, the Apex comes back with even more of its monsters to try and take over the world. And they try and get Bruce back as well to fight, and he doesn't want to do it, but he gives them something called the Mighty Avenger Protocol, which basically combines them all to make one giant Power Zord. Mech Avenger. And from there, obviously, they try and fight the Apex. Doesn't quite work, and so Banner shows back up, and with a gamma bomb, and becomes basically Godzilla, a Mega Hulk. Fights the Apex, takes him down, takes over his army, and Sam reminds him of his friendship and promises that will never change, leading Banner to remember about their friendship and basically go back to his little island with all the monsters and basically isolate themselves there. So definitely an interesting episode to start with. I was hoping for a bit more when it says, if Hulk fought the Mech Avengers. In terms of what we got from this episode, you want to see the Hulk go up against them. So, again, maybe a slightly misleading title. You can say that the Apex Gamma Beast is obviously a version of the Hulk in a way. But, it's birthing creatures from this gamma radiation stuff on its shoulders, almost like when a gremlin gets wet in a way. It just pops off of its shoulders and creates a new one. But yeah, it was definitely like inspired by a lot of other shows, like we said, Power Rangers, Voltron, Pacific Rim, Godzilla. Definitely gave off a lot of that vibes. Not too many real Easter eggs in here, to be fair, as well. The cartoon at the start was almost like an 80s inspired cartoon. Tony Stark's long hair, maybe sort of a nod to the original 1994 Iron Man cartoon. Obviously little bits here and there, the on your left sort of scenario from Sam Wilson, the fishing boat that we see from Falcon and Winter Soldier, Red Guardian's comment about going for the head, obviously sort of a callback to Thor and Thanos. The Astra Islands in the original Marvel comics was the islands where Bruce Banner built his nuclear absorbatron. So that was a nice callback to that as well, having him a little base over there. Obviously, Mighty Avenger forming a Megazord, that was interesting and amusing, to be fair. I didn't really think, obviously, those mechs would have been designed to combine like that properly. But, when you're taking the inspirations of Power Rangers, Voltron, Pacific Rim, Godzilla, that sort of stuff, you're going to have a bit of fun with it. And I thought that's what this episode was at the end of the day. You had this overwhelming, obviously, theme that you're not alone and you've got friends to help you deal with stuff if you need it, which, it's nice to have an underlying, I guess, message like that you're not alone. But at the end of the day, this was very much a callback, I think, to shows gone past, and a bit of fun. So, Mega Hulk at the end of the day is the MCU's Godzilla now, in terms of this universe anyway. So it was cool. It was interesting. I definitely a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to see maybe a little bit more of the original Avengers fighting. I know it was kind of done as an overlay and then a quick sort of recap, but it would have been nice to see a bit more of that. The Megazord of the Avengers got taken out by the Apex pretty quickly as well, to be fair. They did well against the other beasts, but going up against the big man himself, they didn't really do anything. And then we did really get to see a Hulk versus Mech Avengers fight in a way, if you're talking about original Bruce Banner Hulk. So that in itself is a little bit disappointing. I really did want to see. I was just thought it might have been an episode of like going off the title before we get to see it. was that the Hulk was just going to be on a rampage and the Avengers are calling to take him down and they can't, and so they build mechs to try and do it. So definitely gave off more Pacific Rim Godzilla vibes to me than anything else, and a little bit disappointed we didn't get to see a proper Hulk versus Avengers showdown, especially when they talk in the episode about having to build bigger Hulkbusters to deal with the situation. But at the end of the day, not the worst episode to kick everything off with. I do have really high hopes for some of these episodes coming up this series. As I already mentioned going through it, the emergence destroyed the Earth. What if the Watcher disappeared? And what if are probably the biggest ones I'm looking out for. So that's pretty much it. Just wanted to have a quick recap of the first episode. As I said, I'm going to be here every day just to review that day's episode. So make sure you join me tomorrow to be able to review the next episode, which is What If Agatha Went to Hollywood? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Galactic Call podcast. I'm Andy, your host, as always. And we are here today to just give a quick live reaction to episode 2 of Marvel's What If series. Today's episode of What If Agatha Went to Hollywood? Now, when you look at all the episodes, the episode titles in the run-up to the release of the show, this is one of the episodes that I looked at and went, I'm not 100% sure I'm that bothered about this particular one. Shout out to Brandon from the Galactic, from Clan Mandalorian, as he has just said, the Galactic Core podcast. Thank you, buddy, for jumping on and joining the live stream. But yeah, when you look at the episode list for these ones, Agatha Went to Hollywood wasn't really one that jumped out at me. So I wasn't particularly thinking this was going to be amazing. But then again, when you looked at episode 1 that aired yesterday, What If Hulk Fought the Mech Avengers, that looked like that was going to be a real great episode. And it turned out to be a bit meh, if I'm honest. So went into this one thinking, yeah, I suppose it's probably going to be all right. And it turned out to actually be a really cool, really fun episode. So we had Agatha Harkness, Kingo, Howard Stark, Jarvis and Arishem showed up for this particular episode. So in this one, Agatha Harkness wants to obviously get more power for herself, and she found out about Tiamat and the Celestials and the power that they have, and she wants to get that for herself. And she's gone about it by hunting down the Eternals, taking all their powers. And she realized that the only way to get the final piece for herself is to get Kingo and get his power as well. So then she can do that, which she obviously manages to do. She manages to get the power of the Celestial. Arishem shows up because he's pissed that she thinks that she can do this. She then defeats him as well and takes his power. So she's got all of her witch magic, plus she's got the power of 2 Celestials in there as well, making her pretty much one of the most powerful beings out there. Kingo manages to talk her down at the end, and she gives up that power to stay with him and can become a proper Hollywood starlet. And obviously the energy throughout this that's thrown in with Howard Stark and Edwin Jarvis as well is actually quite good. So I think the whole vibe of this episode was actually really good. The dance-off that we have between the sort of Hollywood starlets and Agatha and the Bollywood style of Kingo and his dances was really fun as well. I was really enjoying that. Their whole dance-off actually was quite entertaining, and even though it's obviously an animation, it still gave a lot of energy, which was really, really good. That was really enjoyable. Howard Stark's excitable energy throughout all of this episode, because he's just looking at everything through money tinted sunglasses, I think. So he's just thinking, I'm going to make so much money. We see at the end of this episode, he's like, there's no money in my weapons business anymore. It's all going to be about cinema and Hollywood. So all in all, I think this was actually a really cool episode. The effects of everything looked good. Everything looked really good. The magical effects looked really good as well. The battle between Arishem and the Celestial version of Agatha was interesting. I'm not sure if she maybe could have defeated him that easily. But I guess if you've got the power of 2 Celestials and also you're a witch, then you're going to have maybe a bit of an upper hand. But I thought it wasn't quite going to go her way when Arishem was like, you're still too human to understand how to use this power. And then she whoops his ass. So at the end of the day, I'm not convinced 100% that she could have been talked down from that position to give it up. Knowing how power hungry Agatha is, especially after we've seen the Agatha All Along series. When you've got that much power as she has been after for her entire life, I'm not convinced that Kingo talking her down and saying you could be, everything you need is being an actress, that would actually work. I'm just not convinced that that's how it would go down. I think that she would squash him like a bug, and that she would carry on being a mighty celestial. It was cool to see her using the powers of the other Eternals as well, in her fight with him, and the fact that he was obviously very easily convinced to join sides with her when she was pretending to be altruistic, but in fact that she was not. For the fact of offering him like a trilogy of films for himself to be the star on, he gave himself up pretty quickly. So does maybe seem a bit like Kingo, but yeah, I'm not convinced, one, he would have given into doing that easily, and I'm not convinced at all that Agatha would have been talked down and giving up that power. Obviously, they said that, her killing Arishem may have attracted the attention of the other Celestials, but that could always be saved for the sequel. And we did see them show up right at the very end of the episode with the Watcher. So obviously, this being the last season, we're not going to get to see a conclusion to that particular story, but you've got to maybe think that more Celestials showing up would probably combined kick their asses. So probably that story does not end well for that particular Earth, unfortunately. But well, yeah, I actually really enjoyed this episode. Definitely better than the first episode, I thought, overall. So it goes to show that, just because you may not have a favorite character in this episode, or on paper doesn't necessarily sound like the best, it turns out to be a little better than you're expecting. So I think that's my little lesson I've learned for today. Tomorrow's episode, we've got what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier. We've seen a couple of clips of this, to be fair, in terms of in the trailers running up to it. There was sort of an extended clip they showed. I think it may have been at the I can't remember when it was, a while ago, that they did show an extended clip of this particular episode. So always excited to see the Winter Soldier, especially with the Thunderbolts film coming out at the start of May, where we have Red Guardian and Winter Soldier involved with it. So it is going to be interesting to see exactly what does happen in that particular episode tomorrow. But I'll be back tomorrow, Christmas Eve, to give a quick reaction and review to that show. Let's crack on, though, with today's episode of Marvel's What If. So today we're looking at what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier. A lot happened in this episode, to be fair, so I'm just going to sort of read the synopsis just to refresh your memory, because quite a bit did happen. So we start back in 1991, where Super Soldiers, the Red Guardian, and the Winter Soldier are sent to recover a case of Super Soldier serum from Howard and Maria Stark, as we saw in the Civil War film. When Barnes is about to kill the couple, Red Guardian prevents him from doing so, and they only get one vial of the serum. They're forced to return to Russia on their own, with the authorities and Bill Foster on their tail. Believing someone known as the Rook can provide them with transportation, the duo tracks them to Las Vegas. On the way, Barnes is told by the Red Room's leader, General Dreykov, the Red Guardian has become a liability and secretly orders him to kill him. As they arrive in Vegas, they discover that the Rook is no other than Obadiah Stane, who provides the Russians with information about the Super Soldier serum in order to eliminate the Starks from the market. When Stane attempts to kill the duo, Barnes knocks him out of the window from the top floor of the hotel, sending him to his death. Then Bill Foster and the local SWAT team and a task force sent by the Red Room swarm the area, forcing the super soldiers to flee. During the chaos and a little chat between Red Guardian and Bucky, Bucky is unable to resist the trigger words that activate him into brainwashing and buys the Red Guardian time to escape. He destroys the last vial of the serum, and sometimes later, Barnes is taken back to Hydra's base in Siberia, where he's interrogated about the Red Guardian's whereabouts. But Barnes tells them that he's dead, and then he's brainwashed again and put back into the situation that he's always been in. Meanwhile, the Red Guardian is approached by Bill Foster, who offers him a chance to help the United States once again. And then 21 years later, Red Guardian is seen fighting alongside the Avengers in the Battle of New York in that iconic scene where they're surrounded, where he barges himself in next to Captain America. So a lot going on in this episode, to be fair. Probably one of the busiest episodes that we've seen in terms of what actually goes on. Was like a mini story, a proper mini story or mini film story in its own episode. But just going to run through some of the Easter eggs that we see from this episode. So obviously the 1991 footage that we saw in Civil War, the sort of grainy security footage where the Starks got assassinated, albeit this time that doesn't happen due to Red Guardian's involvement. We do see a picture of Dracov's daughter, Antonia, in his office. Obviously, she, as we saw in the Black Widow film, eventually becomes Taskmaster, who we're obviously going to see in the Thunderbolts film alongside Red Guardian and Bucky as well. We do get to hear the classic Winter Soldier theme, again from the Civil War film and in the Winter Soldier film. So it's nice to hear that return, because I've always been a little bit of a fan of that theme, to be honest. We do get to see Bill Foster's Goliath in action. Never actually got to see him in the second Ant-Man film. But here we get to see him, obviously voiced by his film character Lawrence Fishburne as well. He's a bit younger in this, and he's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and tracking down Alexei and Bucky. Even though we did see him obviously make his initial debut as Goliath in What If Season 2 as well. So good to see him returning in this series. And also we've got the park ranger is voiced by America Ferrera, known for her roles in Barbie, Superstore Ugly Betty, and a few others. There was a classic Thelma and Louise moment in this film as well, where Bucky and Alexei do the canyon jump. In a way to obviously avoid the police. So there was a classic little Easter egg there. And the one memory that we see in here that Bucky is able to recall as the Winter Soldier is he just sort of gets this image of Coney Island, which is obviously a flashback to some of the memories he has back in the 40s when he was hanging out with Steve Rogers. And then, of course, at the end, as I did mention earlier in the synopsis, we do get that classic shot from the Avengers where it sort of pans around all of them in the Battle of New York. And Alexei butts his way into it next to Captain America. So, yeah, in terms of this episode itself, it was one I was looking forward to before. But in terms of how the whole episode went down, I've got to say I wasn't that fussed about it, to be honest. In a way, Red Guardian almost became a bit of a joke. He was so cliche in this episode, it became annoying for me anyway at times. I just wasn't particularly thrilled by how they put him in this episode, how they make him look. I understand he obviously still was like that in the Black Widow film, and he's going to be like that in Thunderbolts, but it was almost so cliche in this, it was painful. I didn't really enjoy it, to be honest. And how they present Bucky in this one, you know, we haven't exactly seen a lot in the MCU universe, in the film universe, of Bucky as the Winter Soldier, in terms of being this deadpan classic assassin. You know, the bits that we did see in the Winter Soldier film itself, and some of the flashbacks from the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series. Yeah, he's not exactly chatty. He doesn't seem to really have his mind of his own. It's literally just all about the mission. And of course, Civil War, some flashbacks there as well when he kills the Stark. So the fact that they made him a bit more chatty in this, and he's so instantaneously able to resist the trigger words that brainwash him, didn't seem like that was realistic either, especially when it took essentially a lot of time with the Wakandans for them to take all of that Hydra stuff out of him. You know, we do see in this episode that the red Hydra sort of book that has all the keywords in that we see in Civil War as well, that Zemo got hold of. So nice to see that all ties in, even if it is a different universe. But yeah, I just don't like how they displayed Red Guardian and Winter Soldier in this episode. Just didn't seem like, one, they were giving a good portrayal of the character, and two, it doesn't seem in line with that sort of character that we know. I know they were trying to give Bucky a little bit of sort of instant character progression here, but you know, when you've got a brainwashed Winter Soldier on your hand, he's all about the mission, and to break that takes a lot more than I think the Red Guardian, but maybe that's what they were trying to get at as well. I mean, the other thing to pick up on here is that I think Bill Foster was great in this. It's nice to see some Goliath in action. You know, we've seen obviously Giant Man with Ant-Man and stuff, but to see Goliath was pretty cool. But there seems to be, in every episode, in all 3 episodes so far, they seem to want to tell some sort of moral story to leave you on a feel-good note. I'm not really enjoying that, to be fair. I don't need my stories to be told with a moral theme to them every single episode. So I hope that's not going to be the overriding theme of every episode of this season, that everything has to have a moral story to it. Just tell me a good story. It's What If, for God's sake. You can literally tell any story you want. You don't have to put a moral background into every single one. So, I mean, tomorrow's episode, I'm hoping it's going to be a fun one. The Christmas Day episode. What if Howard the Duck got hitched? So we're going to see Darcy Lewis, Howard the Duck, Nick Fury, Loki, and Yondu. So it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, we've seen some of these characters in the previous seasons of What If already. So I don't know if that's like a weird continuation of their story, if it's just something brand new. But I'm hoping that this is just going to be a fun, light-hearted episode. It doesn't need to have any overriding theme for it, because it's Christmas Day. Let's just enjoy it and have a bit of fun. So far, though, season 3, What If, 3 episodes in, the Agatha Went to Hollywood episode from yesterday has actually been the best one so far out of the 3. So I'm hoping that it really does kick on from here, because the last 4 episodes, What If the Emergence Destroyed the Earth, the sort of Wild Wild West 1872 episode, followed by what seems to be a 2-part finale of The Watcher disappearing and What If. I really hope this is going to kick on now and finish this series in a really good way. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everyone. Welcome to the Galactic Core Podcast. Merry Christmas to all of you out there today. Happy holidays. I hope you've been having a fantastic day with whomever you're celebrating, whatever you've been doing. I've been at home with my family today, had some friends pop over. It has been a lovely, chill day. Hope you've all been getting some really good presents as well, getting what you wanted. I hope that Santa brought you everything that you needed. But yeah, just a lovely day to be able to jump on quickly and discuss, as usual, as we're doing during this run, all of the episodes of Marvel's What If Season 3. Today we are going to be discussing episode 4, What If Howard the Duck Got Hitched. But before we do that, please, everyone, just give a quick follow, quick like to Galactic Core Podcast on all the social media and places where you can find us. So obviously here on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, as well as finding the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, everywhere else you can find it. But I'm really happy to be here on this Christmas Day. Got some really nice nerdy gifts myself as well. I got a lovely blanket from my wife because I've been after a new one, and keep the legs and the feet warm when you sat on the sofa in the evening. She got me a lovely blanket that has the Galactic Core Podcast logo. As you can see in front of you, it's got that all over it. So that was quite cool. And I got a couple of Marvel statues as well, Jessica Jones and Iron Fist, because I already had Luke Cage, Daredevil, and the Punisher. So with the addition of Jessica Jones and Iron Fist today, it means I've got all of the Defenders from the Netflix series, which I absolutely was really wanting to get a hold of. So I'm really glad that she got me that. So thank you to my wife for that. But we are here today to discuss Marvel's What If. What if Howard the Duck got hitched? So this was definitely an interesting episode. A lot going on. I mean, yesterday there was a lot going on in that episode, but today chaos ensued, I think, in this episode. Not an episode I was expecting at all. I think this episode kind of encapsulates the beauty of What If in a way, because this was a case of what the fuck. So much happened in this particular episode. So really getting happy to jump into this one. So, it is Christmas Day. I was hoping for maybe a Christmas episode. We haven't really gotten too many, when they've been doing this on Christmas Day, sort of Christmas episodes. So I was really hoping that we might get another one, but we didn't really. But this was a fun episode either way. So many cameos from so many people spread across. So I was really happy to see all the cameos that we got in this. But the main synopsis of this episode is that after Party Thor, Viva Las Vegas! After his episode in season 1, Earth has now become a place where loads of aliens live alongside all the humans as well. And in this episode, we see that Darcy from the Thor films and also Howard the Duck have got together. They had a baby. Well, not a baby. They had an egg that hasn't hatched yet. But they've obviously got married, and they get invited onto the Grandmaster's intergalactic pleasure cruise. So a return of the Grandmaster here. I mean, just the amount of cameos in this were insane, but we'll get through it. So they try to cook the egg because they want to eat it, but that doesn't happen. Yondu comes in, takes the egg. They get a shield, so you've got the return of Fury, Coulson, and the Skrulls as well. But Yondu takes it to what he thinks is going to be the Collector. Ends up being Caecilius from Doctor Strange. He's trapped the Collector and taken over, and they want to use the egg as a vessel for Dormammu to have a new host body, very Ghostbusters 2-esque, and that sort of thing. But Darcy and Howard manage to sneak in, and S.H.I.E.L.D. also attacks. They manage to get the egg and escape, and they go to Jotunheim to frustrate Loki for a bit of help. Laufey, however, also wants to use the egg, and then a bunch of people start turning up, and this is where chaos ensues, because this egg was conceived or born on the day that the convergence happens in their universe. So apparently this kid is going to be super powerful and super strong and have a great future. So everybody wants him. So let's just count through who shows up to try and get this egg. So obviously, as we already mentioned, S.H.I.E.L.D. are there, but Loki's already there. The Grandmaster are obviously there, but Thanos shows up with the Black Order. Caecilius is there, Laufey's there, Zeus shows up, Ebony Moore and the rest of the Black Order show up, Karina's there, Malekith and the Dark Elves show up as well. This is absolutely insane for the sheer amount of cameos that we saw. And they obviously are chasing everything after the egg. But then Darcy and Howard work out that they can start singing singing to the duck, to the egg, sorry, in a way to try and bond with it. So they start singing. I can't even remember what the song is off the top of my head now. But they start singing to the egg, and he manages to almost start to birth. I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss. That was it, sorry. And so they start singing to the egg, and it sort of starts to hatch in a way, but it starts killing off everyone. So the likes of Malekith, Caecilius, even Thanos all get wiped out by this baby. It finally hatches, and it's some sort of human duck hybrid called Birdie. And Nick Fury sees that the baby is absolutely fine in its mum's arms, and so decides that they get to keep it. So God knows what kind of powerful being this Birdie really is, but my goodness, yeah, the sheer amount of it was like a Looney Tunes fight, but with all the MCU villains that we've seen. It was absolutely insane. Seeing them all roll down the hill as if they're sort of there's a thing in Britain about chasing a cheese roll down a hill. Kind of looked like they were doing that for a while. But yeah, sort of everyone showing up wanting to get this egg for their own purposes was absolutely insane. But just seeing the likes, all of basically the MCU villains showing up at the same time to have like a Royal Rumble Looney Tunes fight to get control of this egg was absolute madness. It was really fun to watch, to be fair. I think it's probably the funnest episode that we've had so far. Some people might have said yesterday's episode with the Red Guardian Winter Soldier was supposed to be quite fun. I found it a bit annoying. And the first episode didn't quite go down the way I wanted it to. I still think the best episode out of the 4 that we've had so far is the Agatha Goes to Hollywood episode. But this was the most fun episode. I mean, you're never going to really take Howard the Duck that seriously, are you? So that was always interesting. But you know, good to see everyone else show up. Good to see the birth of a new entity into the Marvel universe. Obviously not the main MCU, but in whatever universe they're in. I was hoping we were going to see Party Thor for a bit, especially since he got introduced right at the beginning. But unfortunately, that was not the case. But yeah, in terms of episode goes, I thought this was a fun episode. It was absolute madness with the amount of different characters showing up. Just with the who's who of Marvel villains, to be fair. Shame Yondu got killed off in this episode as well. I didn't even really mention that he got killed off. Crazy that Frost Giant Loki was trying to build a resort for people to go to Jotunheim to go skiing, which, to be fair, is not the worst planet that you can have done that on. So, see if they get that up and running again in the future. But yeah, overall, I think the most fun. I would probably rank this the second best episode of the series so far. But it looks like the remainder of this season, the last 4 episodes that we're going into now, are going to be kind of mental, to be honest. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Galactic Court podcast. I am here as your host, Andy, as I am every single time, to be fair. There's no one that's doing the show apart from me. So, of course, I'm always here as your host to take you through whatever that we're doing at this moment in time. Today, though, or right now, I should say, I am here to talk about Marvel's What If, as we are doing every single day whilst this show is on. Season 3, Episode 5, What If the Emergence Destroyed the Earth? This, again, a little bit of deception in the name of the title of this episode. It wasn't quite what I imagined was going to be happening in this episode. I sort of wanted to see what happened if they were fighting to stop the emergence and it didn't happen. And they weren't able to stop it, and the emergence then did happen, as opposed to what actually did happen, which was the emergence happened a lot earlier, years before the Eternals were able to come together to stop it, and the aftermath of what happens there. Excuse me. So, again, a lot happening in this episode, a lot of people that we got to see. So we had Ironheart, we had Mysterio, a little cameo by Sharon Carter as the Power Broker. We saw Okoye, we got Wong, Valkyrie, Ying Nan, Vision as well that was in there, and of course we get to see 3 of the other Watchers at the end, the Eminence, the Incarnate, and the Executioner. So that was really interesting to see at the end as well. We'll get into that a little bit, but the basis part of this episode is that the Watcher starts with this episode by saying that in every universe where this has happened, Riri Williams is always the answer to the problem of saving the Earth, but she's never able to save it. It always ends every single time. It ends the exact same way, which basically is her dying and the Earth not recovering. So it was a really weird episode in the fact that basically it shows that after the emergence destroys the Earth, it's cut up into little pieces, which almost like gave a little bit of a throwback to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. When they had that whole season where they were sort of a little bit in the future, and the Earth had been destroyed by a great happening. Kind of gave that sort of vibes to me a little bit. But the planet's left in literal pieces. Quentin Beck made his move and took over Stark Industries, creating an army of drones called the Iron Foundation to keep all of the survivors under his control. In the present day, we see Riri Williams. She's trying to get parts together to make some sort of weapon to take down Vision, who himself was killed and reprogrammed by Beck and is now under his control and his lieutenant. So Riri is recruited by what's left of the Resistance in Wong, Okoye, Valkyrie, and Ying Nan. And basically, they do manage to take down Vision, and Riri uses the parts to make herself into a synthezoid, where she thinks that she can basically destroy the nanites powering his illusions, and she can see through them with Vision stuff as well. But it turns out to basically be all a ploy by Mysterio in the first place, and he's captured her, and he's basically breaking down her spirit, and he's literally killing her. And the Watcher says, "This is how it always goes down," and he turns away and looks like he's walking away because he can't watch anymore, and he says no. He decides that he wants to step in again, breaking his oath as the Watcher, and kicking off everything to help Riri basically fight back, which she does. And she slices off Beck's nanites, shutting down the Iron Federation, killing him, and then projecting a big Avengers logo into the sky to let everyone know that there is hope. And then what we see at the very end of the episode is the fact that the Watcher himself is being watched. As I mentioned, we've got the Eminence, the Incarnate, and the Executioner. They're there keeping an eye on the Watcher, and they say he's broken his oath again. So now we have to watch the Watcher. I think that's obviously all leading up to the final 2 episodes of this series, which, as I discussed before, I'm looking forward to. It looks like it's going to be the 2-part finale. What if the Watcher disappeared? And what if? From what we've seen in the trailer, this does look like this is basically leading up to this, that the Watcher can't help himself now. He's broken his oath a couple of times. He's going to step in, and they're going to step in on him. But as for this episode, interesting to see. Obviously, we saw the Iron Federation under the control of Beck. Sort of a bit of a callback to the Iron Legion that we first saw in Age of Ultron, because they're very similar looking sort of bots to that as well. Also, a little bit of a cameo from Sharon Carter's Power Broker from the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, selling goods to people for obviously power or money or information. And because she's been included, it may be a sign, I think, that that Sharon Carter may be returning to live action in the MCU soon. So we'll have to wait and see that. Maybe we do see her in the Captain America film. Who knows? Obviously, we see the alternate White Vision that has been so far missing in the MCU since he disappeared at the end of WandaVision. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. We do see the Asgardian skiff from Thor's Love and Thunder. That was good to see there, and obviously being pirated. I was just talking about pirates and Skeleton Crew. That's why it's in my brain. Being piloted by Valkyrie as well. Bit of a Casper reference to White Vision, which always did elicit a little chuckle. What was interesting about this particular Mysterio as well is it did seem like the ultimate Mysterio that we did see from the comics. It did seem to resemble him quite a lot in and how he was doing. So, and Brandon Clark, oh Lord, long time no see. It's been a whole 20 minutes, mate. Where the hell are you? I'm missing you already. Brandon Clark of Clan Brandalorian, we literally did finished our live stream of Skeleton Crew 20 minutes ago, as I mentioned earlier. So make sure you're jumping on and go and see that collab that we're doing and catch up on that. But I appreciate you jumping onto this stream as well, buddy, and saying hello. Obviously, Mysterio also refers to himself as the Master of Illusions, which is obviously the name he gives himself in the comics. But then obviously seeing the trio of Watchers at the end was so good. And I think it could very well be the same trio of Watchers that was first shown listening to Stanley's stories in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 scene. That was obviously the cameo that you had in that film. So obviously there's no confirmation, it's just me guessing. But if it was, that would be pretty cool that they were listening to Stanley's stories. As for this episode, again, slightly underwhelming. I felt this series has been a hit and miss because it goes average episode, good episode, average episode, good episode. It has sort of just gone back and forth between them. I still think Agatha episode is still the best one that we've seen this season so far. This one, because we're not too familiar with obviously Riri Williams / Ironheart, we got to see obviously a bit of her in Wakanda Forever. We're going to be seeing more of her in her own series next year. And this felt like a bit more of an introduction to her, just for us to get used to what she can do and what she is going to be like. So it's kind of hard when you don't necessarily understand the characters just yet and what they're going to be bringing to the MCU to then have episodes like this based around them, because it didn't quite hit the notes for me. It was a little bit boring. Some of the action was good. It's always good to see so many variants. I mean, this is What If, after all. We're supposed to be getting unfamiliar scenarios and different combinations of characters pulled together. I think the difference so far between the other series of What If, or maybe even the first series of What If and the other two that we've had, is that series one seemed to have a plot and an overall overarching story that brought everyone together at the end of it for a purpose. Season 2 didn't really seem like that. Season 3 doesn't seem like this so far. Obviously, at the end of this episode, it's maybe started to tie in to what the finale is going to be. But season 1 felt better, I felt, because it had an overall arc that was pushing towards an overall storyline, whereas these are just random episodes thrown out there. And it doesn't feel connected. Obviously, because it's What If, you can tell any story you want, really. And I don't think they're pushing the boat out far enough to really do that, which is a shame, really. Because this series has the potential to do so much. But as it's the last one, I really want them to go out with a bang in these next few episodes. I mean, tomorrow's episode of What If 1872, obviously, I think that's going to be some sort of cowboy Wild West Avengers type thing. I think what's a shame in this series so far as well is that because we've now moved on from the core Avengers, the original six, should we say, apart from some of them, as we know, a couple of them are still around. But because we moved on from them, it means that they don't seem to be as willing to do episodes around them or anything like that in What If as well, which is a shame because the combinations you could have are amazing. But because of that, they tend to want to focus more on what is the current list of Avengers or the heroes that are around in the MCU now, as opposed to the big six that have gone. And I think that kind of makes it a bit of a shame that they don't seem to want to include them as much. Because it's not that the current list isn't strong enough to be able to hold their own. It's just, why would you not include some of the characters that have become some of the biggest parts of our lives when it's for the MCU? So it's just a shame that we haven't hit the high notes, I think, for this season so far, and that we're not getting the characters that maybe we want to see either. But we'll have to wait and see where it goes. As for tomorrow's episode, as I mentioned, 1872, we're getting Shang-Chi, Kate Bishop, John Walker, the US agent, as well as I'm sure a couple of others that aren't named, and we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I'm really looking forward to the last couple of days, as I said, the sort of two-part finale, and see how that goes. But that's it pretty much for today's episode. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's a very special day for me because it is my birthday. So I'll be back on my birthday just to run through that What If episode really quickly. But until then, everyone, take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Galactic Court podcast during this festive season. I'm Andy, your host extraordinaire, as I am every single episode. Welcome back to the show. We are here, as always, on our daily trek at the moment from the 22nd to the 29th of December, reviewing every single episode of Marvel's What If Season 3. But we are definitely here today to discuss the fact that it's my birthday. No, I'm just joking. It is actually my birthday today. I'm an old man now, so it's been a very nice, relaxed day, to be fair. But we are here actually to discuss the of Marvel's What If Season 3, Episode 6, What If 1872. I mean, just first and foremost, this series has been a little bit underwhelming so far, unfortunately. Hasn't quite lived up to the hype that they could have done. I always thought the season 1 has definitely been the best that they've done so far. It seemed to have an overarching storyline that brought everything together, and that was kind of missing in season 2, I felt, even though they did try to do that. And it's only recently, in I guess yesterday, in today's episode, started to all come together in terms of what they're planning to do with the Watcher. So yesterday, at the end of yesterday's episode, we had 3 of the Watchers, the Eminence, the Incarnate, and the Executioner, all saying, right, we need to keep an eye on Uoto because he's starting to interfere a little bit too much, and he took an oath. So we'll get to that at the end of this episode again. But this episode, What If 1872, so the Watcher does explain that the farther you go out into the multiverse, the weirder universes get, which is absolutely fine if you want to play that card in terms of saying that it's weird. It gives you obviously cover to tell a really weird story. This isn't necessarily a weird story, but they're covering their bases by going, the farther out you go, the weirder things are. And that's absolutely fine. It is the multiverse. After all, it's infinite. So there's going to be situations out there that are super bizarre. We've even seen that with the likes of in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness when he's going through different universes. Some of them out there are super weird. There's one where they were made of paint. There's one that was underwater. So definitely some strange ones out there. But today's episode, 1872, set in the Wild Wild West, and it concerns Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop, where basically the Hood has been terrorizing Chinese immigrants as a way of trying to consolidate his power and take control. Shang-Chi is searching for his sister, and it partners up with Kate Bishop, who's on a mission to avenge the death of her family at the hands of the Hood. They come across another decimated town where they meet a young boy, Jun Fan. But before they get to that, they also have a meeting with no other than the US agent, John Walker. Doesn't seem to have his super strength abilities in this episode. But they do meet him and his goons, take them out pretty easily, to be fair. And they go along, they find this kid, and they talk about the fact that they were aboard a ghost train that sort of left. They find the train, and it turns out they're missing immigrants, including young June Van's dad. Is on there, and they've all been brainwashed by the Hood's enforcer, Sonny Birch, who is the arms dealer or the weapons dealer that was in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is ironic because I was literally watching that yesterday. So the fact that he pops up now, and I sort of sat there and went, is that Sonny Birch from Ant-Man and the Wasp? And then he literally named himself like a minute later. So, this is where the Watcher decides to step in because he basically just can't take things anymore. He wants things to change because he just can't stand the injustice in the universe anymore, it seems, or the multiverse. And so when the young boy is taken out to be killed, he interferes and basically knocks out the two men that were supposed to kill him, making a change of what was supposed to happen in this universe, which, as we know, the Watcher ain't supposed to be doing this shit. He ain't supposed to be doing anything like this. So the fact that he's done that is starting to piss off the other Watchers, it seems. But then Birch is the one that confesses to also killing Kate Bishop's family rather than the Hood. And he uses a pocket watch to try and trance them. We're going to get to that in a bit when we go through the Easter eggs for the episode. But they finally get to confront the Hood, and it turns out to be Shang-Chi's sister, Zhu Xiaoling. Turns out that when she came here, she thought that she was going to be kidnapped by him, but it seems that she defeated the Hood herself and takes over his demonic cloak, and she basically succumbed to the power of the demonic cloak. So she ended up with scars and basically this whole change of personality in the way that she was trying to do things. Shang-Chi's like refusing to fight her, and then just as it looks like she's going to land a killer blow on him, Kate Bishop kills her. Shang-Chi was really sad, but he doesn't blame Kate Bishop, and then the scars fade away, and the Hood is blown away, and Jun Fan and the immigrants all ride off into the sunset. And that's when the three Watchers show up, and they basically say to the Watcher that you've broken your oath for the last time. We're not having that. And they like throw him up against, what looks like the mirror dimension type stuff. And it looks like a few shards of the observational plane are sent spiraling out into the multiverse. What kind of effect that's going to have? We're obviously going to see, I guess, in tomorrow's episode, whether that's something that shouldn't obviously be happening either, and it's going to have a large effect on a particular universe or on the multiverse. We're going to find out, aren't we? But let's have a look through quickly some of the Easter eggs from the episode. So obviously the episode starts in the classic burning film effect, which is seen in several westerns. Obviously, Shang-Chi is referred to as the 10 Rings, as we know from the film, and Shang-Chi's bandana is red with white dragon scales, which is a nod to the Great Protector, as seen in the Shang-Chi film. Obviously, we see John Walker and Kate Bishop is actually called Hawkeye in this episode as well. There's a point when John Walker points Shang-Chi in the direction of Point Pegasus, which is obviously clearly a nod to Project Pegasus, as seen in the Avengers and Captain Marvel. We do hear a bit of Shang-Chi's theme as well in the background, which is actually quite cool. Part of when the Watcher at the start of the episode was talking about the further out into the multiverse you go, the weirder things become. We did get a glimpse of a few bits and pieces. So we saw Crossbones captaining some pirates. We saw Throg and Croaky in a fight together. And then we also found out that there's even a universe where Ultron was programmed to perform show tunes, and I bet he was damn good at that as well. We also get to hear about some of the big names, the titans, I guess, of the MCU industry side of things. So, there was obviously we heard about Stark in there. He was name dropped a couple of times. So Stark Munitions, Hammer Steel as in Justin Hammer, and Cross Manufacturing as in Cross Technologies, Darren Cross from Ant-Man. So quite interesting that they were sort of name dropped as being the big ones in there. There was an interesting bit, like I was saying, about when Sonny Birch reveals that he kind of uses this pocket watch to maybe hypnotize the immigrants. I know there's been some debate about whether this is either a nod to, like, say, the brainwashing that Hydra did with the Winter Soldier or something like that, or perhaps Dr. Fausto's hypnosis techniques that were seen in Agent Carter, the TV series. So I don't know if it's a nod to that or where it came from. But, if it is nod, it's pretty cool to that, to be fair. We did see Kate Bishop's Hawkeye mention that June Fan has Iron Fists, obviously clearly a nod to the Iron Fist character. And then at the end of the episode, as they ride off into the sunset, we hear Shang-Chi say the sun's getting real low, which is a clear nod to the line that was used by Natasha to calm down Hulk in Age of Ultron. So those are the big Easter eggs from this particular episode. Where the episode sits in terms of rankings for this series, it wasn't a bad episode, to be fair. I don't think it was spectacular. It has no real bearing apart from, as we said, the Watcher interfering a little bit. But it was a fun enough episode. It was a good enough episode. It's neither at the bottom nor is it right at the top either. I still think the Agatha episode 2, sits at the top for me so far. Where you guys think it sits, I'm not really sure either. You'll have to obviously tell me. I'm really looking forward to these last 2 episodes. I think they're going to be up there. I'm really hoping anyway with some of the best that What If have had to offer. Because so far, I mean, you can probably say Hulk episode 1, Hulk fighting Mech Avengers, was a bit underwhelming because he didn't really fight Mech Avengers. As I mentioned, Agatha, I think, was probably the best episode we've had this series. Red Guardian stopping the Winter Soldier episode 3, again, pretty average for me. I found it a little bit annoying. Actually, I wasn't really enamored by it. The Howard the Duck Got Hitched episode has been very controversial. You either seem to love it or hate it. I actually quite enjoyed it, especially all the plethora of MCU villains that showed up in that particular episode. What If the Emergence Destroyed the Earth, episode 5. Again, I wasn't particularly fussed about this episode. It was nice. It was interesting as a concept, but I didn't really think it stood up to the. I think we're sort of getting a little bit bait and switch with the episode titles as well. It's not really appearing to be what the episode title says when it comes to the episodes. And then today's episode, 1872. I think it hits sort of the middle ground, or maybe upper end compared to some of the other episodes we've got. So not the top, not the bottom, just sits nice in the middle. I really want to see something spectacular out of these last 2 episodes. They've had so much material they could work with. They could tell so many stories and they haven't done yet. And it was kind of annoying to hear. I can't remember exactly who it was, but one of the writers or something came out and said they didn't even know that Marvel had the rights to the X-Men again. And they could use, like, Wolverine, for example, in any of the stories. Now, how you don't know that when they've had the rights for a few years now after buying Fox is beyond me. That's actually quite annoying for him to come out and say that, because you could easily have asked, and if you don't know, where have you been all this time? How are you writing stuff for Marvel and not know that you have access to the X-Men? That's kind of stupid, to be honest. So, yeah, these last 2 episodes, it's obviously like a 2-part finale, so to speak. I really want to see something spectacular coming out of it. But that's pretty much it. Just a quick recap of today's episodes. I'll be back tomorrow to review episode 7, What If the Watcher Disappeared? I really hope that is going to be a really big episode, because I'm really looking forward to seeing what does happen in it. But that's pretty much it. So 2 episodes to go. Like I said, I'll be here tomorrow to do that episode, and then the last episode, episode 8, What If, don't know what even to expect from that, apart from a continuation of the Watcher story. So we will have to wait and see exactly what does happen. But join us tomorrow for that episode. But until then, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Catch you later. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Galactic Core podcast. I'm Andy, your host, as always, here to, at the moment anyway, we are reviewing the What If series day by day as the episodes drop. So, What If Season 3, the final season, we're down to the last 2 episodes. So today's episode, What If the Watcher Disappeared? Now, I've literally just finished watching this episode, so it's all fresh in my mind. I haven't had a chance to check out any Easter eggs, anything at all like that, apart from what obviously I noticed off the top of my head. So I'm going in with my raw thoughts on this one. So I've been wanting this series to sort of start kicking off into gear. Because I don't really felt like it has. There's no, there didn't really seem like an overarching storyline like season one. And it's only sort of in the last couple of episodes, at the end of each episode, we've had a little bit of a hint towards what's coming up in these final two episodes, with the Watcher interfering, and then with the trio of other Watchers, the Eminence, the Incarnate, and the Executioner, overlooking our Watcher as he interferes and telling that he can't do that anymore. So we saw at the end of 1872, the Eminence showed up and basically told him that he can't do this anymore. We can't interfere. And we saw some shards of the observatory spill into the multiverse. So we kick off today's episode. Looks like we're on Xandar, and we've got Karen Gilligan's return as excuse me. For some reason, the name has gone completely out of my head of who she plays, but we know who she plays, to be fair. And she returns alongside oh my god, my mind has gone completely blank for who I saw in the episode just then. Korg is there, and also Groot. Nebula, that's who she plays. God, sometimes the memory just absolutely disappears, I swear to God. So she's there. Nebula is alongside Korg and Groot, and that big multi-dimensional beast from like season one of What If shows up. And then all of a sudden, we have the return of Captain Carter. She arrives, and she's got a team in tow now, a multiversal team that contains herself, Kahori, the original character designed for season 2 of What If. And we also get Storm, the goddess of thunder. So basically Storm with the powers of Thor. And also we get Birdie. So in the How the Duck Gets Hitched episode, when the egg that him and Kat Jennings' character, Darcy, when it finally hatches, it gives birth to like a human duck superpowered hybrid. And it's called, she's called Birdie, and we get to see it as a full grown up in this episode. She's obviously got some powers. She seems to be like quite intelligent. She seems to be a bit of an engineer as well. So interesting sort of turnaround for this character. I'm not sure I like the voice they've given the character, if I'm honest. I think they could have had a nicer voice for a multiversal, multi-powered being, so to speak. So not sure on that one. But basically, this is the team that Captain Carter is now a part of. And it looks like they go from universe to universe, saving them when they need to. So we get quite a cool kickoff to this episode, and the fact that they just show up, they got a massive ship. Kind of reminds me of the Sari ships in Mass Effect a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, so they show up and they kind of take this multiversal beast down with kind of ease, to be honest. Storm hits it with a bit of lightning and stuff. Kahori and Birdie don't really seem to do too much, and then they sort of portal Captain Carter through, who basically jumps through from eye to eye in the brain of the beast, killing it instantly. And then whilst they're chatting to Nebula and stuff, these shards of the observatory land on Xandar, and she realizes that the Watcher must be in trouble. So they're going, right, we've got to help. We've got to get the Watcher. He's our friend. We've got to do what we need to do. And so they're using the shards to try and power the ship to jump into the fifth dimension, so like the home of the Watchers. Doesn't quite get them there. Storm tries to use a spell of dark and light magic to power her through, but she can't quite get over the threshold as well. So they come up with this plan, because only one being has ever been able to break the barrier between the cosmic universe and the fifth dimensional Watcher universe, which was Infinity Ultron from Series 1, the big bad of Series 1. So they said that there's plenty of multiverses out there where Infinity Ultron has risen. He's basically extinguished all life in the universe, and then because he doesn't hear the Watcher, he just sits in like stasis for the rest of time, essentially. And so their plan is to go and grab one, force him to open up the plane between their reality and the fifth dimension, and go and save the Watcher. So considering they barely escaped with their lives when they took out Infinity Ultron in Series 1. And you had the powers of the Dark Strange Supreme as well, who pretty much was like the MVP of that team. This was a pretty ambitious plan, considering I don't think any of those four really stand up to the same powers that the Dark Strange Supreme had. So I thought, wow, that's going to be an interesting plan. On the eve of battle, Captain Carter is nervous for her friends. She's having a chat with Storm, and Storm's like, look, we're warriors. This is what we sign up to do. But Peggy's all like, I've lost friends before. Don't want to do this. And she looks at a framed picture that seemed to have a few other people from the teams we've seen in the past. So Gamora, Party Thor was in there, a couple of others that I can't remember straight off the top of my head. And so it makes you think, whether have they lost them along the way? Were they part of the team and they've unfortunately died in battle during time? That would be interesting to know. I'd be gutted if Party Thor had been killed off screen. And so she decides that basically she's going to enact this plan on her own. So she goes to see a particular Infinity Ultron, and it's interesting in the fact that she goes to do that by herself, because he could quite easily, obviously, kill her. When the others discover this is what she's done, they go off to confront Infinity Ultron, and they find her broken shield and assume that Infinity Ultron has killed her or something. And he reveals to them that that's not the case. That it looks like the Eminence showed up and basically kidnapped her. And then we get this little speech from Infinity Ultron about how he thought that destroying all life in the universe would lead to peace, but it's not peaceful, it's just empty. And that there is no peace without life, but there is no life without war. And so everything has to be in balance, anyway. I'm not sure how I feel about an Infinity Ultron redemption arc. This is supposed to be a bad guy. Having him turn and become a good guy and helping save the multiverse, I'm not sure I like that particular, the way that particular story is going. But he basically absorbs the power of the observatory shard, and he says that he can see everything, and he helps power their ship. And boom, it seems to break the dimensional barrier, and that's where the episode ends into tomorrow's episode of what is just called What If, which is obviously going to be the finale. Is our team will have a showdown with the other Watchers. I liked the start of this episode, the battle with the Beast, even though it seemed to be defeated fairly easily. I thought it was one of the best openings to an episode this season, if not the best opening of an episode this season. So I did really enjoy that, to be fair. The intro as well, the intro being done by the Eminence instead of the Watcher, that was kind of chilling, in the fact that it was in black and white as well. That was actually quite cool. I like the fact that they did that. I'm hoping the next episode goes back to Jeffrey Wright narrating it, because it is the final episode of What If that we're getting. So I'm hoping that we get the traditional opening, but I'm not sure that we will, because it's kind of that whole like opening scroll of Endgame, when they did that differently, because obviously half the universe had been erased. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, the episode overall, bit of a lull in the middle of like when they're coming up with a plan of what to do. But going after Infinity Ultron, I thought was quite a cool idea. I just don't like the fact that he sort of turned so quickly and decided he's going to have a bit of a redemption arc, whether that stays in place, and whether when he goes up against the other Watchers, he decides that he does want to destroy all life again. Who knows? We'll have to wait till tomorrow to see that one. But I thought it was quite cool to bring Infinity Ultron back into it. It kind of does bring it full circle in terms of from Series 1 to Series 3, the villains, and giving him a redemption arc to right the wrongs, even if it's not the exact same one. Still quite a cool idea. The fact that they have a almost like table football on their ship, and it's made up of different heroes of the multiverse, was quite funny, to be fair. Interested to see a little bit more maybe of Birdie's powers in the next episode. I'd like to see them elaborate on that, and why everyone was basically going for her in that Howard the Duck episode, and wanting her on their side. So that's going to be interesting to see. Overall, I liked this episode. I thought it was one of the better ones. It did kick off, I thought, quite well. I would like to see more of a battle between the group and Infinity Ultron to get him on side before he decided to join them. I thought that could have been a better part of the episode. Overall, I think this is one of the better episodes of this series so far. I'm not gonna lie, some of the episodes have been a bit disappointing, but overall, I think we could be in for a treat of a last episode. It's effectively got everyone returning from this episode. Hopefully, I want to see a few more show up, but I'm not sure that we will. I think it's just going to be stuck to this group. But the fact that Captain Carter's out there, a lot of people weren't happy that she returned in season 2 and focused quite a bit on her. They wanted to explore other stories because he gave her quite a big story in season 1. But because she's become friends with the Watcher, it kind of makes sense that she returns now. But yep, I am super excited for the next episode, the final episode of What If. So make sure you're tuning in for that tomorrow. Let me know what you thought of today's episode. I was going to say this week's episode, today's episode of What If. Where does it rank for this season? I think it is definitely up there as one of the better ones. But I'm so looking forward to this finale tomorrow. And of course, I will catch you then. Until then, see you later.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Galactic Core podcast. Hope you've all been having a really Merry Christmas and a good festive period. I am here as always, as I have been for the last 9 days, to discuss each What If episode as they've been dropping. I am not at home at the moment. I'm actually away for a few days. So this is why you see me with a bit of a different background, and I'm having to film a little bit differently today. But first and foremost, if you aren't following or liking us on social media, jump onto Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube, and make sure you press that like button, press that follow button, and you can obviously find the show and the episodes across YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere and everywhere that you find your podcast episodes. Make sure you're jumping on there and catching up on all of our latest episodes. Today we are here, as I said, for the final What If episode. It's been a roller coaster of a season. It's definitely been up and down, and it's definitely kicked off the last couple of episodes. So I was really hoping that this was going to be an epic episode. And let's just recap quickly what happened. So we roll off yesterday's episode of What If the Watcher Disappeared, where he was taken, captured because they were tired of his interference. Captain Carter and her multiverse fighting team of her, Storm, the goddess of thunder, so Storm with the powers of Thor, Kahori that we saw from season 2, and also Birdie that is now a grown up that we saw from the Howard the Duck episode in this season. So they're basically a team that go from universe to universe trying to stop multiversal threats, as we got to see. But the Watcher disappears. He's taken by them. They come up with a plan that basically they're going to get an Infinity Ultron from a different universe to help them. Carter decides that she can't lose any more friends, so she goes off to try and do it by herself, which is quite stupid, to be fair. And basically in doing so, she leaves everyone behind. They catch up with Infinity Ultron, and he tells them that he's had a change of heart. He has a bit of a redemption arc, and he wants to help them, so absorbs the powers of the observational shard of the fifth dimension and gets them enough power to breach the barrier between the fifth dimension and the cosmic universe that they're in. So that's where we pick up on today's episode. So it starts off with a little bit of a flashback, I guess, of how Uatu came into being as a Watcher and him swearing his oath to the Eminence that he was going to uphold the order of the Watcher. So it shows a bit of a background of that, and then obviously it shows back to the modern time where the Eminence is telling him that he's failed, and obviously shows that he's brought Captain Carter as well because she's a threat to their order and how they're all heretics now. And then we see Infinity Ultron, or Supreme Infinity Ultron, whatever they've decided to call him, bursting through and taking on the other 3 Watchers. And the ship crashing through as well, allowing Carter and Uatu to escape. But they say that there's literally nowhere they can go, nowhere they can hide. The Eminence eventually, well, I say eventually, pretty damn quickly, to be fair, dispatches with Infinity Ultron. So yeah, his sacrifice, he basically say to them, he's like, "This is what I was originally programmed to do, which was to help you guys." So he's very quickly out of there. And they come up with the idea that if they can get themselves to the universe that Stephen Strange created, because he is in every atom of that universe, then they can maybe take the Watcher's powers away and give them a chance to defeat them. But before they can do that, the Watchers catch up with them, and they look like they're going to dispatch them pretty quickly, because as quickly as they try and fight, they're no match for these particular Watchers, are they? So then Uatu has an idea, and he's like, say the oath after me. And so they say the oath and become Watchers themselves, and all the powers of the Watchers, which is a little bit ridiculous, but I understand where he's coming from. It doesn't seem really as simple as that you can just say an oath, and even halfway through, he's like, "Oh, forget it, just say that you accept." And they say, "I accept," and they're donned with the powers of the Watchers. That seems a little bit ridiculous, to be fair. You can't just say one oath or just say, "I accept," and all of a sudden that's how you get this power. There's got to be something a little bit more to it than that. Surely you've got to be, adorned with the powers somehow. But they get the powers of the Watchers, and they go up against a big fight up against them, and eventually they manage to overwhelm them. And there looks like they've won the battle, and Uatu tells them to stop, and gives them a chance to do the right thing, is from what he can see. But and the Eminence is like, "You have no idea what's going on. I've no way taught you everything." And then the three of them go up into the sky, and they start this amazing process where they're like, "We are literally going to erase you from every universe, every version of yourself that's ever lived, every life you've ever touched, every person you've ever helped. We're going to erase all of that from every single universe, from every single corner of the multiverse." And you can see them doing it there. But it seems like Captain Carter's stubborn will to survive somehow, and this is a bit out there, somehow she manages to start reversing what they're doing, and then jumps up into the sky to looks like, stop them from doing what they're doing. And after the big explosion, they all wake up. They've all survived, obviously, apart from Carter. And the Eminence goes to use his powers on them, because he said it was a futile effort. And turns out he's got no powers, because somehow Carter managed to get them to Stranger's universe, where he can depower the Watchers, because it's his universe. And then Uatu and the Eminence have a little chat, and he tells him that, there's more out there than just a watching. You've got to learn to see and to listen, and you can change the kind of person you are for the better. And that's effectively how it ends. Um, Bit of a random one, a bit of an ending. I wasn't sure how quite they were going to end this, but I've literally just finished watching it, so I haven't had a chance to look up anything, any of the Easter eggs as I might normally do. I'm not sure how many Easter eggs there really are, but given that this is the Order of the Watchers, and they're a multiversal outfit, surely this has ramifications for every universe, including the MCU's main timeline, the sacred timeline, if we go down that route. So it's going to be interesting to see if that does have any bearing. Maybe not, because it's on such a different dimensional plane. But the whole battle was interesting. As I said, turning them to Watchers wasn't particularly fussed with that or happy about that. I don't think that should have happened. But then again, how are you going to give them the sort of power that they can really stand up to the Watchers and put up a fight against them? So I can sort of understand where they're coming from on that front and giving them those powers. As for having them beat, the Watchers said that they've got powers that they've never even seen and they can't comprehend, and yet somehow they managed to bring the three of them down. I guess if they're combining the Watcher powers with their own abilities they already had, there's a chance that they could take the other Watchers down. But I don't buy it, to be honest. But this power that they have, where the three of them start coming together to be able to erase every version of those characters from every single universe and every timeline, that's pretty awesome. That was epic to see. Again, given that I doubt that she genuinely has stronger powers, considering she's a super soldier essentially, she doesn't have powers, cosmic powers or mystical powers like the other ones do. So how Captain Carter manages to start reversing this and jump up and defeat them seems a bit unrealistic, to be fair. Again, with the Captain Carter rhetoric that they bring her in to be the hero, she has been in every season. I know there's going to be people out there that aren't particularly thrilled with that. It is what it is at the end of the day. I don't worry too much about that. But the fact that she seems to be able to reverse the situation and stop them from doing that, I'm not convinced that that's a viable thing, to be fair. But then ending it with the fact that she gets them into the Strange Universe again, how she manages this, who knows? Maybe just obviously the powers of the Watcher. But then obviously Uatu talking the Eminence down at the end and doing that whole "you've got a lesson to learn here" kind of speech, which has been very much the theme of this entire third series. Again, yeah, I mean, anyone that knows me, I'm not overly fond of like really happy endings or anything like that. I like seeing a little bit of a bad ending, so to speak, sometimes, and sometimes it don't go the way the hero. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, that's what we got. But yeah, it pretty much wraps up the entire What If. I don't know how you guys all felt. Like it went down. I think season 1 is still by far the best season they've done of this. I know we're getting obviously spin-off series with Marvel Zombies coming up in 2025, which I'm actually really excited for because we got the zombie episodes again in season 1. But yeah, season 3, how it rates, I still think the Agatha episode 2, was probably the best one of this particular series. These last 2 episodes were decent. They were good. They probably do sit second and third for me in terms of how the season's gone. You had to expect an epic battle at the end of this series because you are going up against the Watchers after all. So it is going to put it up there. And some great displays of powers, to be fair. But yeah, all in all, I think season 3 probably sits out of the 3 seasons in the middle at number 2. Season 2 probably goes at the bottom for me. I find it quite boring and not nowhere near as good as season 1. Season 1's interconnecting storylines, bringing them all together, was by far the better season for me. But that's it for What If, unfortunately. We get no more of it. It'd be really interesting to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, What If is no more. Obviously, like I said, we've got Marvel Zombies coming next year as a spin-off to this. Considering the endless possibilities you can have with a show like this, to have wasted some of the episodes like they have done across season 2 and season 3 has been a real shame. This is literally a show called What If. You could have done anything. I think one of the most favorited potential episodes would have been What if the other half had been snapped in Infinity War and things like that. The stories that they could have told could have been so much better. So to concentrate around such a core group of characters at times and told what felt like ridiculously filler episodes at times, they could have done so much better. I know they want to like make episodes that people can relate to, but this is a series called What If, where you can make fantastical episodes and make them so outrageous it's completely different. So yeah, it is an absolute shame that we haven't had more out of this series. There was the potential there to do so much more, but it is what it is. We've got what we've got. We've got to rate it on what it is. Is it going to be one of the most memorable TV shows that Marvel have delivered? Probably not at the end of the day. I see this similar to like Star Wars version of like Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Empire and stuff like that. It's never going to give us every episode that we want, but at times it's delivered some really, really cool stuff. So I'm happy that we've had it. It is an absolute shame that it is over, to be fair. But we move onwards, and then after that we've got a roller coaster over 2025. But until then, everyone, take care. Thanks very much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Galactic Core Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. But until next time, go get your geek on.